Hello and welcome to Truth Xpose TV. I'm Aldwyn Altuney, and it is with great pleasure today that I introduce Ross Anderson. Now, Ross is the Director of Aqua Consulting in Queensland, and we're going to talk today about what is going on with your increasing energy bills and what to look out for to save a fortune on your bills, whether you're paying them for your home or business use. Now, Ross has helped more than 250 businesses in Queensland and identified more than $4 million a year in energy savings for them, which is fantastic. Hello and welcome, Ross.
Hello, Aldwyn.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and it's really great to have you on this show, because I must say that I was a bit shocked when I had a close look at my energy bill recently and realised how much more I was paying than I needed to pay. And I would presume this happens quite a lot out there, and that people don't actually look closely at their energy bills and they just pay the increasing amounts as they come through and don't think twice about it. Now, how did you get into working in this area in the first place, and what does Aqua Consulting do?
Okay, so how I got involved in this originally was I was contracted for a not-for-profit organisation providing business support across the inland Wide Bay Burnett region in Queensland, and we were approached by the federal government to provide energy saving for small business. And so that started a 3-year journey with small businesses across the Wide Bay. And from what I discovered working with them, I ended up working with the cane growers up in the Burdekin to help them save on their power bills as well. And then I was invited to sit on the Queensland Energy Consumers Reference Committee in Brisbane, which was lobbying for better prices for energy consumers, both for domestic consumption as well as commercial.
Okay, and did Aqua Consulting start as a result of that, or had it already been running?
No, I'd already started as a business consultant. So my passion is helping businesses become more efficient in what they do and to improve their business turnover.
So what is really going on with these increasing energy prices, and what should people be looking out for? Now, I know there's a heap of things, so that's quite a big question, but where can we start with having a close look at our energy bills?
Okay, so the first thing is that understanding what you're looking at when you look at your energy bill. There's, for an example, with your energy bill, you need to be a good indicator of keeping an eye on it is with the indicators on the bar graph that I've got held up here. You can actually see what your energy consumption is compared to last year, and this is an indicator of something's out of whack. You can actually see there that if your consumption's gone up, you can start questioning what's going on. In the auditing that I've been doing with businesses, what I've found is that it's usually the office administrator that's paying the bills, and is not until something untoward happens that they recognise that there's an issue with the bill. And so you need to be across what's being using power in your business, so you know what to be looking out for. So for an example, with the power bill was on the back, if I just hold it up, in the back corner there's your meter number should be there. And I had one business where they were actually paying for their neighbour's bill, and that saved them $28,000 on that bill alone. So
wow, how does that happen?
Simple things like that, just by accident, that the meter number was on the wrong bill. So these are the sort of things that you need to be keeping an eye on to make sure that everything's correct on the bill. One of the other things is that when with your bill, in the bottom left-hand corner, to be aware of is that's where they'll identify that you've had an estimated bill done. This really
Okay.
affects people that are on using demand tariffs or time of use tariffs, especially irrigators where for one quarter they're not using power and the next quarter they are because they're irrigating. And like one quarter they may have a bill that's worth $25,000 and the next quarter they're not irrigating and they're using zero and they've had an estimated reading, so they get another bill for 25 grand. So there's those sort of things that they need to be aware of. They will get recompensed with it, but the issue around that is that it impacts their cash flow dramatically. And so it's much better to keep the money in your pocket rather than in Ergon or your energy company's pocket.
Could you please lift that last bill up again and show that bottom corner? I didn't really see that clearly there. Just that very last one.
On a power bill, like this is an Ergon Energy one from Queensland. So if you could imagine down in the bottom left-hand corner where I've got my finger pointed, there will be, it'll say their estimated power bill. Or
it's got the total due. We could see the total due. Can maybe lift it a little bit higher? Lift it higher so we can see the very bottom. Is that the bit you're talking about? Supply detail.
So it's just above the very bottom, just on the left-hand side where I've got my finger.
Oh, okay.
It'll be worded there. Plus, it is also identified on the back. It'll have an A as actual or E for estimated.
Okay.
And that'll be identified in brackets on the back as well.
Okay, very good. That's good to know that stands for that.
Hopefully that's clear on that. So that's one of the things to be really aware of, because I come across quite a few clients that had inaccurate bills done. The other one is they were on the wrong tariff. That's the other thing to be aware of, is that they're on the right tariff. So in the back, if I hold this up, you'll see where you're identified what tariff you're on, especially for business, to make sure that they're on the correct tariff. I had one example where they got recompensed for $7,000 because they were supposed to be irrigating and they ended up with a general supply tariff. So the difference, they were paying 38 cents a kilowatt instead of 18 cents.
Wow, that's quite a big difference.
Yeah.
So that could really literally add up to just thousands. So what's the biggest indiscrepancy you've seen, or the biggest mistake you've seen? Was it the $25,000 one, or have there been bigger bigger gaps?
The biggest one I've come across is $50,000.
Wow. Wow.
And
was that in just one bill?
One bill.
Just one bill, which is quarterly. For most people, it's quarterly, isn't it?
So that's the business side. The biggest domestic bill I saw was $3,500 for a home.
Oh, that's still a lot. And is it quarterly mainly that people get their bills?
It's quarterly bills.
Yes.
So it's important
that
you
a lot of money.
So that's one place to start with, is your power bill, so that from there we can identify or will indicate that there's issues. And then it's a matter of going and checking to make sure what's using power. So you to give you one example, and I'll use irrigation because being here in regional Queensland, I did a lot of work with irrigators. They were on a time of use tariff, and when he went and checked it, it wasn't recording correctly. So he was supposed to have the cheapest power over a weekend, and it turned out that he only had it for a Wednesday. And he was irrigating thinking that he was getting cheap power on the weekend, and where he was paying a premium. And that was worth $7,000 rebate to him when we got that sorted out with Ergon.
Wow, that's huge. So it really is worth someone's while to not just have a look closely, but if they've got any questions at all, to contact you and really have you have a look over it as well, because there might be things that they might miss. Is there any other points that we need to look at on the bill?
I know what I'm looking for. So that's sort of irrigating. The other one is that with businesses, so it's finding out what's using power in their business, and I'll use a fast food takeaway business, and they were using they were on a time of use tariff. And so when I went through and we analysed that, they were paying roughly about $1,200 a month for their power, and around just over $2,000 a month for their demand tariff, which is peak demand for the month. It peaked over around 55 kilowatts, and it cost them to be just over $2,000 for that. So what we looked at is what was causing that peak, and by just simply putting in a monitor and changing people's habits, and I've just got another photo here of, so just a simple monitor. This is something like you get from Effigy, EFERGY.com.au. They're a low-cost way of monitoring your energy consumption in the business and also the home. We did that, and they changed. What we worked out was that when they started up in the morning and they walked through and turned everything on at once, it created a peak demand. So what we did was we started everything, and that took that peak out, and we ended up saving them just over $1,000 a month.
Wow, that's huge.
By doing that. So it's a matter of using that. Another example was a petrol station, and they had those little self-serve Eagle Boy pizzas, that little pizza oven they were running. So what they did in the morning is, when they got there, they did a batch of half a dozen and put them into the Bay Marie and left it running for anybody coming in and wanted one. They could just cook it straight away. When I calculated that out for them, it was costing them $15,000 a year to have that on running the hours that they were open for. So what we did was they already had a convection oven that they weren't using, so they reused that and turned the pizza oven off, and only used it for if they had a large number turned up. So they could cook 3 pizzas in the convection oven. While they were doing that, they could get the pizza oven up and running, because it only took 5 minutes to heat up and 5 minutes to cook a pizza. So if they had a busload of people come in, excuse me, they could get it up and running straight away. So that saved them $15,000 a year.
Wow, it's amazing. It seems like such a small thing, but it really adds up, doesn't it?
Yes, and it's just people doing things like that. Had another company that had an oven that they turned on, and they were heating pies up for fast food, and they left that running, and it was 20 kilowatts an hour power consumption.
Okay.
So that was substantial as well. So there's all sorts of things like that once you work out what's using power, we can talk about options about doing it. So it's not always about replacing plant and equipment. A lot of what I've come across is about changing people's habits.
Interesting. Because even having a TV on standby, just on standby mode, that can use a lot of power, can't it? Just having the little standby lights on.
They said that standby was about 10% of your power bill.
Wow.
So there's things around that, like in the home you can use what they call smart boards. So what you do is you plug your TV into what they call the master plug, and then into the slave plug holes is you plug all your set-top box, the Xbox, the Wii, What else do the kids use? You just like all everything else they use, and then when you turn your TV off, it switches everything else off. So that's one way of managing standby power with those. The home, like lighting is one where going across to away from standard globes, which most of us are now done, and we've gone over to the energy savers. What we found there is that the energy savers aren't lasting as long as that they report or propose. So where they claim they last, 3 to 5 years, they're not lasting anywhere as long as that, and they're taking longer to glow up and dull out very quickly over a short period of time, say 6 months. You find that they aren't as bright as they used to be. The other thing is that they're highly toxic. So if any of them break, there's mercury vapor in the air, and it's very dangerous.
Wow.
So my recommendation is to go over to LED lighting. So the best way to give an example of how it works is that to go from a 60-watt light bulb, you'd go to somewhere like a 12 to 14-watt energy saver as an equivalent, and then about an 8-watt LED light would be equivalent to that. So it's only going from an energy saver to LED is not a big step. It's just more reliability and a better light. So you've only got about a 2 to 3 watt, say 2 to 5 watt saving between LED and energy saver lights. So like on a 100-watt spotlight that you use outside for your barbecue area, you go from a 150-watt halogen down to a 23-watt energy saver, which, by the way, is probably about 5 times brighter than a halogen, and then an LED would be 18 watts.
Okay,
so that's sort of roughly about your lighting. So there's still savings about that and reliability, but what we found with those energy savers is that they're the problem with them is that they're just not lasting as long. The other thing to be aware of is if you're wanting to work out what's using power, on the back of just about all appliances, plant and equipment and everything like that, there should be a compliance plate on them, and on there that'll tell you what wattage they use, and from that you can work out what their actual consumption is. Now, on the back of this TV program, you'll be able to get access to a free energy calculator that I've provided. If I just get and Aldwyn will put that up. Here we are, all the pages. So this is an energy calculator, and there's a link that you can get to that, and that'll be available later on. That can help you with those calculations off the back of those compliance plates.
Yeah, that's great, Ross. Thank you. Yeah, we'll connect that to the YouTube. Once this gets recorded and put on YouTube, we'll put this as a comment. We'll put that link as a comment underneath so that you can just click on that link for the free energy calculator. That's brilliant. And did you say you designed that, or?
Yeah, so I built that, and then I'll provide that for those that have watched it on this TV program. It's free for you to download and use.
Fantastic. Thank you.
We're talking about energy lighting. So on a commercial type scenario, the round one here, this one here, to give you an example, 12 months ago, you could 180 watt one would have set you back $380 to $680. Today, they're down to approximately $45.
Wow!
So there's huge savings now, and it's made it viable to do the changeover in a commercial operation for industrial sheds to get your lighting bill back under control. So,
and what's the reason?
So not only is it important for to get the energy saving, but you should also get a return on your investment. So if you're going to go out and buy these lights, you want to be able to get a return on it within 3 years. Most lighting now, likes with the LED fluoro tube replacements and these new high bay lights, you should be able to get a return on investment well within between 6 months and 12 months. So you get a very quick payback with them.
And what's the reason for the reduction in cost now for those?
Being manufactured in China.
Okay. Everything's made in China.
It's just that because more and more people are using them now, that the more people use and buy them, the cheaper they become. And that's where we're at with it. So
okay, very good.
So these are the sort of savings. When if you're in a commercial situation and you're unsure whether you're on the cheapest tariff or not, what you can do, and I'll use Ergon as an example, is that you can get a price comparison done. So you can go to your power company and say, look, I just want to make sure that I'm on the right tariff. How much is it going to cost me? Can I compare the different tariffs? And they will provide a free price comparison. So if I hold this up, and I'm not sure just how clear that will be, but I've just highlighted the comparison between 3 tariffs, the tariff they were on and 2 other tariffs that we looked at saving. And as you can see there, the tariff 22 gave them a $2,600 saving a year. So as he said, this holiday for the year, just then and there. So that was money he could keep in the bank. And that was at no cost to change over. And it was just simply analysing what they're doing. So that's where you can make a decision, an informed decision to make a change, rather than trying to guess whether you're doing the right thing or not. When you're looking at tariffs and other energy providers, for those of you that are looking at this and are in regional Queensland, the danger of moving away from Ergon Energy to another provider, you need to make sure that there's at least more than 2 providers within your region, because it's legislated that if you move away from Ergon, you can't go back. And I've had clients that have done that, moved away to another provider. They've had cheap power for 6 months, and then they've put the price up, and they've wanted to go back to Ergon to go back to a cheaper rate, and they can't go back. So it was one of those abnormalities where they moved legislation thinking that they were creating a competitive environment, but what it actually created was a monopoly type scenario where once they moved away, they were locked in with the other company and couldn't get away from them or move away, so they were locked into the power price increases. So through negotiation, I've been able to help a couple of them source another energy provider to give them a better price. But these
that's great.
Across.
That's great. Well, I had a close look at my bills, as I mentioned to you, and I was with Origin. Well, I was actually with Lumo years ago, and then I changed over to Origin. Origin were offering 14% off my bill, and I didn't realise that was only for 1 year. So now 4 years on, I've had a close look at the bill, as I actually had a sales call from Lumo saying that they're now offering, 10% off. But what I didn't realise, the 10% off is off the whole bill, not just a section of the bill, not just the service charge, and that the 14% off that Origin were offering was only for 1 year. So you really need to check it very closely. And when I had a close look at that actually with you, Ross, we realised that I could be saving $100 or $200 per quarter just by switching over to another provider. And then, if I do that, there's certain things I need to be careful of there as well. So you know, with the telemarketing that's going on in the industry at the moment, and with the discounts that are being offered, what are some of the things that people need to look at with the discounts, you know, and I guess you say the tariffs as well, but what should they be listening out for, or what questions should they be asking to make sure that they know exactly where they stand with these discounts?
Okay, so probably one of the key things that you touched on there was that if you're looking to go to another provider and you do have solar energy feedback, and you're on that 44 cents tariff or better, just make sure that will not be affected, because the government's looking for any excuse to get out of paying that. So, like for example, here in Queensland, the standard rate now is 7 cents feedback, and I've had companies where once they move away or change providers, they've actually lost that ability to get the 44 cents, and they've just reverted back to the 7. So that's one of the key questions to ask if you're getting that feed-in tariff, is to make sure that that's maintained going across to the new provider.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So the key thing is, the other one was, how long is that discount offered for? Like you said, where you weren't aware that it was only for 12 months. Is it across the whole bill? Some providers, I have to say, you just about need a degree to decipher their power bill, because they use terminology like GEOS and TUOS. GEOS is demand use, time of use, and TUOS is transmission time of use. So it's being able to put all those bits together, and they also break up the service fees as well. So for some people, it can get quite confusing, and that's where I've come in and helped them to decipher their bills.
Definitely. It's a little bit deceptive the way that they promote these discounts. You know, you actually have to be almost informed a little bit to be able to ask the right questions, because they just don't explain things properly. They just say, oh, we'll give you 14% or 10% or whatever it is, and you think it's across the whole bill, and you think you've got to check also how much they're charging, because the charges vary so much for the actual consumption as well, which I find really interesting. So you really need to check that closely, and really look at those details in the bill. And it's amazing how a small figure can, when you add it up over the whole quarter, how it can just add up to so much. So this is fantastic that, you know, we're educating people about this, because, you know, I would say probably 90% of people don't look at their bill properly and just pay it each quarter and just go, oh, well, it's just, you know, CPI increases, or, you know, things are just costing more with time. Well, not all things, as you say, you know, some lighting equipment is cheaper. However, you know, looking at this closely is really important.
Yeah, and I can use, I'll use myself as an example here as well. So I had my pool pump drop a bearing, and it cost me an extra $250 for my quarterly bill, until I realized, until the actual bearing failed properly, and I got it replaced, and it was actually equated to around about $250 in extra power usage, just because of the extra load on the motor. So it's just, you know, simple, you know, things like that. And that's where, if you are monitoring usage with a monitor, you can also make sure that things are running right. Because what I've seen out there now is that I don't trust a meter because of all the issues I've come across. We've all made the fatal assumption that the meter's always right. And so, yeah, that's one of those issues that, you know, we need to be aware of, that nothing's 100% fail-safe.
Right. And you don't know unless you have some kind of...
Unless you've got
monitoring.
So, sound device, and that's where, like I said, with the effigy type product, where they just clip over your phase wire, You need an electrician to install it. It's very simple. They just clip over, and it transmits to a readout, and you can see what's using power, how much power is being used in the house. You can turn off on and off different appliances and see how it increases or decreases in power consumption.
I know about an effigy product. And how much would you pay for something like that for a monitor?
So basically, a good quality one, just a basic readout, probably around $50.
Okay.
And then for a business, you'd be looking at around $250, say $300 for a computer monitor that you can see what's going on. And and you can do 3-phase power as well. They've got clips that just go over each phase wire. Very simple to monitor.
It's interesting that you mentioned earlier the federal government actually funded you to provide energy savings for small businesses in regional Queensland. I find that very interesting that the federal government is interested in this, because you would think the federal government would be benefiting from higher energy prices, wouldn't they, in some way? Why would they fund this? Was this a campaign election move, or?
So it was a Labor government initiative. 4 years ago, through the Energy Efficient Information Grants Program. And so the latest governments, let it run out, through the process. But that actually finished about just over 18 months ago. And I'll be doing my own energy assistance to businesses in the meantime. And that was all about helping businesses, educate them and be more efficient with the energy bills. Most of the time I come across was that what was being using energy in the business, that the person paying the bills wasn't aware of what was consuming power and what wasn't. And it was, it's just amazing, just people's habits of leaving things turned on.
Yes. So some simple things would be to just turn appliances off, particularly during the day. You said with the tariffs, with the higher the peak tariff rates during the day, so the more energy you have you're using during the day will cost you more, for example. So what are some simple tips for people, on a day-to-day basis, simple things they can do to help reduce their energy bills?
Just to go through and analyse what's actually using power. To assess, that's where you need to assess your different plant and equipment in a business, what's using power, how much power it's actually using, how long it's turned on for or not. The other one is that if you're using solar and you're on the 44-cent feed-in tariff, what you want to be doing is minimising what you're using during the day, so you get maximum feed-in to the grid, and use the power at night because it's cheaper. It's only half the price. Whereas if you're on the new tariff, we're only getting 7 cents feed-in. What you want to be doing is offsetting what you're using. Use all the power during the day, so that your solar energy is offsetting that, and minimise what you're using at night. So it's sort of like a reverse usage model.
Right. And that 44 cents, I know I checked mine was at 50 cents because I think because I installed my solar power before things changed on that. So I was at 50 cents on that one. The actual energy provider gives you some extra rebate too, don't they? Is that correct? Is that on top of that 44 cents?
Yes, depending on who your provider is. So,
okay.
So like being down on the Gold Coast where you are, Aldwyn, you've got an advantage where you've got several providers, so you have a choice, so you can shop around and get the best deal. For us poor people up here in regional Queensland, where we've only got one provider, we don't have that option. So
Okay.
we're very limited to what we can and cannot do.
Right, right. So you said the Wide Bay area. For those that don't know, who are watching this right now,
Okay.
can you explain where that covers in Queensland?
So Wide Bay area in Queensland is from just north of Noosa or 2 hours north of Brisbane to Bundaberg, and then out west to the townships of Kingaroy and Mundubra and Monto. So over the whole area would be the size of 2 Tasmanias.
Wow, that's a pretty big area.
So it covers a big area. So we basically sit inside Hervey Bay whale watching, Fraser Island.
Nice.
I'm just trying to identify what people would relate to. Beautiful
Yeah,
place.
beautiful. Beautiful. It is gorgeous there. However, you've worked all over Queensland, is that correct?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And do you also work interstate sometimes?
Yes, I've worked interstate as well. So it depends on because the energy issues are the same. It doesn't matter what state you're in. Depending on where you are, you'll have more options with energy providers. Other areas you won't. Like the further you go inland, the less options you've got on providers. But mainly on the coast and size of population, the better the choice you have. But energy use is still the same issue. Every business I go into, it's pretty much the same. And what I'm finding that I can pretty much guarantee a 20% saving on your power bill by going in and having a look at what your business is doing.
Wow, that's a big guarantee.
And the information I impart for the business, that can also cross over and apply to the home as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Really great. And how did you first get interested in this whole field in the first place?
Like I said, it was about energy, business efficiency. So with my background, I'm a toolmaker, and I've had engineering businesses, manufacturing, and that it's all about being efficient with what you're doing. So energy use for manufacturing is a key part of it, and it's always about making sure all machinery, plant, equipment is efficient as possible. So because it affects your bottom line, like on a business where you might be it might be $5,000 a month, and you save 20%, it's quite an impact on your cash flow.
Yes, it is quite huge, and it really does pay to just put some time into having a close look at this. It might not seem like an urgent thing to address. However, as time goes on, it can really add up to a lot.
Well, and the thing is that you've already earned the money, so the money's already in your bank account. Hold on to it. I'd rather see you get it than the Ergons of the world or the government.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, like here, I can use Queensland because I know the fairly intimately. But Ergon pay the government 30%, 7% rebate back to them.
Okay. Wow. And what about?
So it all comes back out in our what we get paid for in tax, and it gets spent in other areas. So it is financing other things by the government, but I always like to be able to keep hold of the money for your own business, and to be able to use it for your own use.
True. And what about overseas people? So people who are watching this who aren't in Australia right now, are the energy bills overseas, do they really vary drastically from country to country? Or have you ever looked at an overseas bill and, you've worked in New Zealand, obviously.
Yes, New Zealand, and I had this same impact there. A good friend of mine's got a dress shop, and he was complaining about his power bills. And when I had a look at those, his issue was he'd identified that it was the hot water system running in the back of the shop was the biggest problem. But when I went and looked at it and pointed out to him it was actually turned off, it wasn't the issue. It actually worked out to be the lighting he had over the dressers. They had the little 50-watt halogen spotlights, and they had something like 300 of them. So
wow.
What I did there was we just did some quick sums and crunched some numbers and worked out the return on investment, and we switched them all over to LEDs, and that had a massive impact on his power bill. So I see the issue is pretty standard. Doesn't matter, I think, where you live. Power bills will vary, but power consumption and what's using power will be pretty much the same for every business. Excuse me.
Yes, so very important to look closely at your power bill if you're watching this, and particularly if you're being offered discounts by any providers at the moment, make sure that you check exactly what you're being discounted on and how long that discount will last, and check the amount that they're charging you as well. In the details. So a few simple things there that people can do. Would be great to have some kind of, checklist or something like that, Ross. I don't know if you have anything like that where people can kind of go around the house and check if they're doing things efficiently around the house with some kind of checklist. Do you have something like that?
No, I don't really have one for the house because my time's valuable, and I just for the home it's not really cost effective for me to go in and do that, but I can talk them through what's happening at home.
Right.
I'm more focused about business and where I can make substantial savings for them. But in the home, I'm sure like if you went online and Googled any, like an energy consumption checklist, I'm sure there was something would come up. And also for looking at different power supply companies, there is a couple there like iSelect and that where you can very quickly do a price comparison between companies to get an indication on whether you're on the best deal or not.
So that's great.
There is help out there to find the best deal for you. And it's one of those things that once you do find it, is then like yourself is to keep an eye, like check it every 6 months or 12 months, do a check and make sure you are still on the cheapest deal. Because things are changing all the time. And like around solar, like they're now talking about the Tesla battery. Just one of the things with that is that the payback period for that is 21 years. But after 15 years, you have to replace the battery. So I liken it to being like buying a brand new TV. The latest and greatest one costs you 10 grand. But if you give it a couple of years, it's back to about $1,000. So it's that sort of scenario with the battery storage at the moment. For business, it's a challenge because a high volume usage is a problem for storage. So a lot of businesses are putting in large solar systems to help offset their day usage rather than store. But the solution will come, I believe, 18 months, 2 years, and we'll have some really, smart solutions for solar energy storage.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's great. Well, with the solar power as well, how often should people get their solar systems checked to make sure that they're running efficiently?
Okay, with the solar is keeping the solar panels clean and having them up on the house is the challenge, and accessing them. You have to keep in mind that it's generating power, so please you have to be very, very careful there. I would talk to whoever installed your system to make sure they're maintained correctly. So if you need to clean, and especially like I've come across a few commercial ones out on farms and that where, like where they've been ploughing the ground and the amount of, dust that's gone over them, and that their efficiency's dropped away quite dramatically. But you have to make sure that the system's turned off and that to be safe to go in and actually clean them. And also, just a word of warning there, you have to be very careful. Plain water is probably the best thing to use, because some cleaners or solvents will actually degrade the solar cells.
Interesting.
A few people have been caught with that, cleaning their solar cells, and have melted them.
Wow, that's amazing. What do they put in those cleaners? It's a bit of a worry.
It's just what they're made out of is very, very sensitive to cleaners.
Okay, interesting. So yeah, trust an expert on that one. Don't do it yourself. Go back to the person that installed your system. That's a great tip.
You're working around power, so the last thing I want is people getting electrocuted.
Yes, absolutely. Must be very careful. Yeah, good tip. That's very important. And how often would you need to get your system maintained? Would you say every 6 months again, or year? For a solar system?
Keeping it clean is quite important. Having a checkup on it would be, I'd say, on a 12 monthly, to make sure that it is generating the power that they recommended. What we're finding is that a lot of the earlier systems aren't standing up and are having to be replaced. The latest systems are much more efficient at generating power over the same panel size.
Oh, really? And when you say latest, is this just in the last year or two, or the last 5 years, or?
If you imagine,
the last year
again, it's like, go back to the old TV scenario, the latest and greatest. It's the latest model. So the earlier models aren't delivering quite as efficient, but probably the main one is keeping them clean so that they are generating.
Right. So rain won't quite cut it. You would need to actually wipe down the surfaces with water, as you say, or get an expert to do that, particularly if you've got a double-story house or a big business.
Yes, so it depends on where you live and how much dust and dirt's in the air, and that how often you'd have to look at doing that.
Or if you're near the beach, maybe would things corrode if you're near the beach?
Yes, so you've got to deal with the salt spray and corrosion around that. So it's just keeping a regular check on it, scheduling a regular maintenance.
What's the life expectancy, I wonder, of a solar system, solar power?
They say between, they vary between 10 and 15 years, but it all comes down to the quality of the system that was installed. We've found that there's been quite a few Flybynight energy companies in those early days with the solar rebate scheme, and they were using cheap componentry, and they're the ones that are having to get replaced.
Right. Okay. Well, that's a bit of a worry. Well, it's the same with the whole water tank fiasco as well, when the rebates were happening with that. And I actually bought a slimline 3,000-litre water tank that actually ended up with a hole in it, and I found out that they were faulty moulds, and then of course the company went out of business. So even though they said there's a 10-year warranty or whatever, the company went out of business. There's nothing you can do about it. So I'd say a lot of people would have been burnt during rebate periods. So that's quite unfortunate, I guess, and you just move on. I guess you learn from it and move on, and hope the next time you'll have a trusted company. So to make sure that you do get a trusted company that does it for you, what are some things to look out for to make sure that you get the right equipment in the first place?
So it's all around their warranty and service agreement, to look at what's their backup service. You want a reputable company. It's one of those things that you come back to and you'd say, if you use a local company, then like you've always got that backup service. Just again, it's like use the rule of thumb: 3 quotes for everything. Go and get 3. If you're looking at solar, get at least 3 quotes. You might end up with 5 or 6, but out of that, you'll find the company that you want to work with that's got the right reputation and quality products to use.
Yes, good point. All right, so back to the energy bills again. Is there anything else people need to be aware of on their energy bills at all? We've covered quite a bit there.
Okay, so going forward, so July there was a price increase, so that's why the latest power bills will have an increase. Domestic, there will be about you may see about 2 to 3%, maybe. Domestic shouldn't really move at all. The big impact is going to be on business, and we're expecting between 10 and 40% on, depending on what sort of company they are and what tariff they're on. How they're using power and that. And I've just had a discussion today with about a company that they're a high energy user. They're looking to have to go on over to some new tariffs, and they're looking at 400% power price increase. And
wow,
now it's a debate whether they'll actually stay in business or not.
That's unbelievable. 400% increase.
These are the impacts that are coming. So I don't want to be a doom and gloom merchant, but this is what we need to be aware of, is that there's a new tariff structure coming, and by 2020 they want to have it in place, both Ergon and Energex, which will affect the whole of Queensland. They have, for domestic, it's time of use, and with time of use they mean from the 3 o'clock in the afternoon till 9:30 at night, you'll pay a peak price for your power, and it'll be around about 50 cents a kilowatt for the months of November through to February.
Wow.
So what that picks up is, like, imagine kids coming home from school and turning everything on, coming home, cooking tea and all that, and then watching TV and turning off. So we see a big impact through that period, with that for people over a summer month period. Obviously, they're trying to get people to change their habits, but I have real fear about that, because they had last year there was a 40% increase in people not being able to pay their power bills on low income earners. So with new pricing structure, we see that could increase again. So that's a real concern. So that was time of use, and then they have a peak demand. So there's the peak demand one's quite involved to explain, but basically it works over the same time period, and there's a peak demand involved in it. So if you have a peak usage, you're going to pay something like, I think it's about $23 a kilowatt. So was it going to impact power bills by about another $150?
Wow.
It's just, so these are the things, the new tariffs that are coming up that we're concerned about. There's more information on those on the Ergon website if you want to have a look about the time of use and peak demand for domestic. and it also works for the same for small business, that they're looking to shift them across over to peak demand. And the peak demand for business is 8 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock in the morning through till 8 o'clock at night. So you're paying peak rate for that. And I see that having a major impact with small business again. So, one of the things, like a couple of clients said, well, we've just made all these great savings and now we get the next bill and now we're back to square one again. So that's the challenge we've got at the moment, is that although the big business is becoming more energy efficient, they still haven't been able to tackle the power bill. Because the power company's putting it up. So that's where that lobby group's been proactively working to try and get that correct, try and get the power bill prices down, power charges down.
Right. Okay. Very good. Well, hopefully they will be effective in that. Otherwise, there'll be a lot of people that will be suffering, as you say. Yes. And moving forward, we do need to wrap up the show very, very shortly. So how could people work with you? If they want to work with you, where should they go, and how can they go about it?
If they want to want to get more information, they can go to www.aqua Gold Consulting, AQUA consulting.com.au, or they can contact me on 1300 178. I'll give you 04 mobile 0438 785 438.
Okay, great. Could you please repeat that mobile again?
So the mobile number is 0438 785 438.
Great. And that's your direct mobile number?
My direct mobile number.
Fantastic, Ross. Thank you. And, of course, aquagoldconsulting.com.au. Any final tips or words of wisdom, Ross, that you'd like to share today before we wrap up the show?
Probably just check your power bill, see what it is, and check what's using power. Just go and have a look around and see what's turned on. See what's using the your power, what's using power. And it's quite easy to work it. It's not rocket science, so it's quite easy to work out. What I'm always looking for is the elephant in the room that's using power, and it's usually by just going through and having a conversation and talking about, what's using power, what isn't. Like a tip is, every time you walk past the fridge, is it running? It's an indication that it may have low gas in it, and it's working twice as hard to try and keep the fridge cold. So if it's not turning off and on, so like every time you walk past your freezer, it always seems to be running. That to me is a warning bell to say you may need to check that.
And is it true that if you've got your charger for your phone, for example, that's still plugged into the power board, and you've taken your phone off, that is actually still drawing power, even though it's not charging your phone, because you've taken your phone off the charger? So should you take unplug the whole power cord? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a very big point. A lot of people probably wouldn't realise that. They think, they're not charging their phone, but you actually
everything like those is just drawing, and like it's a small, it's not a lot. But like I said, if you take everything that's using standby power, and the rule of thumb was 10% of your power bill.
That's huge. That's huge. So turn off all those standby lights. I mean, even on my air conditioner, I didn't use my air conditioner for years, and I had this little red light there, and it's only recently that I turned that off. And when you've got 3 air conditioners in the house, that's quite a lot of standby. And then of course the TV, and then you've got the intercom security. You've got lights on, all these things that you really just don't need. So
one of the key problems is that if you make change, you want to be able to measure it. And the issue around a quarterly bill, if you go out and make changes, you have to wait a whole quarter before you actually see if you've made a change. Or if there's something's gone wrong and is using more power, you won't know until you have your quarterly bill. And then the challenge around that is that then you're arguing retrospectively to get recompensed or fix the problem that's causing it. So that's where the energy monitor comes in, because you can actually see if things change, you can then act on it straight away.
Very good. And is the link for effigy on your website as well, aquagoldconsulting.com.au?
No, but I do identify them there.
Okay, great. All right, fantastic.
They're easy enough to find.
Fantastic, Ross. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today, and it's unbelievable how much there is to look at in a power bill and how much you can save just by looking closely at your power bill and looking at where the energy is going and making sure that your power company has not made a mistake on your bill, as they often do. And if you have any doubts whatsoever, or you're finding that you're getting ridiculously high bills lately, definitely contact Ross at aquagoldconsulting.com.au. Any final words? Final words there, Ross, to wrap up.
Oh, thank you, and hopefully I've helped some people with their power bills, and hopefully they make some substantial savings. And thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ross. And we will put any relevant links underneath this YouTube video. If you like what you've seen, please like, comment, share this video and help spread the love and let people know what is really going on in the world of energy bills and how you can save a fortune. Thanks so much for joining us. Connect also on Truth Xpose TV on Facebook, and you can connect with me personally on all the social media. Just Google Aldwyn Altuney or AAXpose.com. That's AAXpose.com. You can connect with me there as well. Thanks once again, Ross, and we look forward to seeing you again soon on Truth Xpose TV. Have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.